Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Lyons. I am the principal at Story Geeks. I'm a writer and I work in the publishing and film and television industry, and I have for many years. And I also am a trainer in the Enneagram in business, which I've taught for management teams, individuals, organizations, and so on. Where I teach the principles of this thing I'm going to introduce to you today. Now, we only have a 20-minute talk, so we're not going to get into the super details. But what I'm addressing here today is what's called the new cross-culturalism. And the tool that I'm going to show you is a particular tool that lends itself very effectively and very powerfully to being able to respond to the demands of this in the world. And the world has increasingly become more multicultural and screaming for diversity, and individuals, organizations, educators, companies are all looking for tools and ways to respond appropriately to those demands. Because it's not just about becoming politically correct, it's the bottom line. It's human relationships. It's becoming something you can't not pay attention to. So that's what we're here to talk about today. There are lots of questions people have when they try to address this problem within an organization or within themselves. And again, I want to stress that this isn't just for groups of people. This is also a tool that can be used individually for individual change. But there are lots of questions that people have when they approach something like this. And the questions, the responses to those questions are very typical. When I ask people, when was the last time you had a big argument with someone? And is that an argument you've had before? Many times. Have you ever really resolved what the underlying issue was of that argument? We keep having it. Okay, that's one hint. How do you work with groups of people on teams? Are you part of a team right now that's a team from hell and no one can seem to figure out a way to get people to work together? Got that going on right now at work. And people do what they do. They just cope because they don't necessarily have the tools to begin to come up with answers and solutions to how do you get past that argument that you keep having every 5 months? How do you get past those team members who are obstructionist and that's the only thing they seem to really enjoy doing? So those are the kinds of questions that this is about addressing. So related to those questions, how do I get past those fights? How do I get past that dysfunctional team? How do I figure out my personal patterns that are getting in the way of all that? There are other issues. And one of my favorite metaphors to use is not LAX on a busy holiday, but the metaphor of baggage. So let me tell you a little story about luggage, okay? Because this is something you do every single day, okay? You get up, you brush your teeth, take your shower, get your breakfast together. I think some of you know what I'm going to talk about. And when you leave the house, you don't just pick up your briefcase or your purse, you also pick up your baggage. And you throw it in the car, you throw it on the bus, you throw it on your bike, whatever you've got, and you take it with you. And then when you get to the office, you throw those bags in the cubicle or you drop them in the conference room, and people are tripping over your bags all day long. But what's also going on is you're tripping over theirs. Everybody's got bags. And the baggage doesn't care where you are. It's part of who you are. And when you're not aware, when you don't know the triggers, when you don't understand the patterns, your collection looks like this. And you don't know what bags are what. They're just bags. And these are metaphors for all the patterns that you carry around with you, all the beliefs, all the attitudes, all the thoughts, feelings, actions, action patterns that you carry out with your family, at work, if you're a student at school with your professors or with other students. And it's chaotic. There's no order to the mess. And what I'm going to be showing you here is a process and a methodology and a system that you can use to give order to that chaos and not put judgments on the fact that you have those bags. okay? Because we've all got them. It's not right or wrong, good or bad. It's be conscious. Know what it is you have. Know what it is you're working with. Know what the strengths are. Know what the weaknesses are. And then know what to do with those, okay? Patterns, patterns, patterns. Now, we are pretty smart monkeys, okay? And one of the things we're really, really good at is pattern recognition. Now, lots of animals can do that, but we have the ability to really deal with esoteric patterns and look at something like behavior and that sort of thing. And one of the things we've done over the eons is we've discovered a model of human behavior, which is called this thing, the Enneagram. It's been around a long, long time. I'm not going to get into all the history and all the nuances and all of that, because if you type in Enneagram on the internet, you'll get 8 billion results. It's a huge, huge thing. It's used in companies, major corporations, in political organizations, individuals, in education. Is the book that I'm going to show you a little bit later on, Bringing Out the Best in Yourself at Work, is translated into 11 languages. It is being used internationally. It's a huge, huge thing. And it is a metaphor for us. Somehow we've been able to figure out, watching ourselves all these eons, that we've been able to take this symbol that's been around for a very long time, and people have attached psychological principles and modern ideas of human behavior to it. And in this case, Ginger Lapid-Bogda, who designed this program, applied organizational development principles to it. And all of those numbers there represent the 9 basic styles of how we think, how we feel, and how we act in the world. Everybody falls into one of these 9 categories. Everybody. Doesn't matter what country you're in, doesn't matter what gender you are. And that's what's fascinating about this. It is talk about the new cross-cultural, this is it. It's the same in China as it is in Louisiana. There are cultural nuances you have to be aware of, absolutely. But this is the thing. And what you have in each of those numbers are set patterns, very predictable ones, of how people react. If you have kids, you want to talk to your kids? Learn their Enneagram, because every Enneagram has specific speech patterns, communication filters, pinches and crunches, things that they always will do when they're pushed against the wall. If you know that as a parent, or if you know that as a boss, you know how to manage your people. You know how to manage your kids and get through their filters. That's the power of this thing. This is a simpler way of putting it. The same 9 styles, personality styles, they get broken up into basically these 3 areas. That the top 3 are more concerned about action and relating. The ones 2, 3, and 4 are more concerned with emotion. That's their concern, that's their focus. And then 5, 6, and 7 are more about being in mental process, either as a 7 being very disconnected from mental process, or a 5 being way deep into it, and then 6 somewhere in between. But this is another way of looking at it. And there's a real quick thing we can do. Stand up. This isn't a scientific test, but what can happen is you can very quickly kind of get a sense of where you fall into this system just by doing a very simple thing here. So close your eyes and just imagine your feet grounded to the ground. And then where does your head automatically, where does your sensation automatically go? What part of your body? Head, heart, or stomach area, or the belly button area. So where does it go? Tell me. And if you don't have a clue, that's okay. Take a guess.
Maybe the head?
Okay.
I was initially thinking feet, but I think that's because I was focusing on... Yeah, I know.
That's okay, that's okay. That's okay. But this is a very quick way sometimes that you can find out where on this circle you probably, your core drive actually is. When I say drive, I'm talking about your personality drive. Okay? And ultimately, all this boils down to all these patterns, all these recognitions that we found that we put into this thing called the Enneagram, it all boils down to emotional quotient. You can sit down again. Yeah, your emotional quotient. In Time Magazine, you did this, and they just nailed it. It's not your IQ. It's not even a number. Your emotional intelligence may be the best predictor of success in life, redefining what it means to be smart. That's what the Enneagram is all about, emotional intelligence, which is 80% of your success in life, and IQ is 20%. And you can read the advantages of having a strong EQ. People who are very successful have these qualities going for them. And the Enneagram is a way that you can get in touch with your emotional quotient, whatever degree you've got one, and everybody does have one. And you can see which personality styles on the Enneagram have more challenges with things like self-introspection or self-acceptance or working well with others, that sort of thing. But when you develop these things, you are setting yourself up for success, and the Enneagram is one of the most powerful tools for getting there. One more quickie fun thing I like to do to show you what the Enneagram is all about, whether it's what I'm doing now is true for individuals. It's also true for organizations. Okay? This is you when you're born, blank slate, or the new team just in the forming stage, right? And then the nurse drops you on your head on the operating table after you got born, and then you have your first humiliation in school at the prom where the dress didn't quite fit. And then that first boss who thinks you're a jerk came after you and made sure that you were humiliated at the next big staff meeting. And then, and after a while, here's life. And this is you, or groups, or organizations get like this. And the Enneagram is all about taking this and pulling it back apart, okay? And making it nice, not nice and smooth, but getting rid of restrictions. Now, what's the difference between this and the piece of paper when I first showed it to you? Character, it's got character. Lines of character, okay? That's what the Enneagram brings you to. That's what the Enneagram brings you to with others in relationship. And remember those chaotic bags that you had at the beginning? Once you get this developing, the bags find their places. And you don't have to drop any of them if you don't want to. You know where to put them. You know what's in that bag. You know what this is. Here's my strength for this. Here's my weakness for that. I want to put that down in the corner. I don't even want to bother looking at that one. That's what the Enneagram does with all that baggage, with all those patterns. Okay? This is a great example of multicultural application for this whole process. You don't have to read all these, but this is the basic protocol for handing someone a business card in China. And you can be focused on all of this, making sure you hit all of these bullets, and you'll be very successful at that first meet and greet. But chances are you're going to botch it. And they know you're going to botch it. The deal's not going to go down because you stuffed the card in your back pocket by accident, but they're going to watch for these sorts of details. And if you get them right, great. But if you don't, if you have this going for you, your focus will not be on this necessarily. It'll be on the relationships. It'll be on the people. It'll be on making it count where it counts, because you're dealing with the same Enneagram styles in China you're dealing with here. If you know what their filters are going to be because they're a 1 or a 9 or a 6, you know how to talk to them. You know what pinches they're going to have and what's going to push their buttons for immediate conflict in a conversation. Doesn't matter whether you handle the business card wrong. You've got much bigger problems if you don't know how to talk to them. So that's why this is a very powerful tool for dealing with multiple. You got to pay attention to detail. You got to know this stuff too. But if you can walk into that business meeting or that meet and greet and have your Enneagram, you can when you get experience with this, you can figure people out almost immediately just from their body language and their speech patterns. And we talk about that in the classes that we're doing. And that's what this is all about. I'm introducing you. Los Angeles Harbor College is going to be offering a series of 6 classes. A typing class where you learn your type, you learn your personality type. That's mandatory, everyone has to go through that. But then you've got a series of 5 other classes where we go into communication and feedback, conflict resolution, and how the different styles handle conflict. Teams and team building, we have a lot of experiential things where we go into fun exercises where we do team building and you see how people's team roles and their team tasks operate in team settings. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to do that. But it also helps you understand why your teams aren't working at work, you know. And then there's a whole leadership piece that we're going to be talking to as well. And that leadership thing will also be spun off later as a 6-part series all by itself. And then a final one on change, on how you can actually take all the learning that you've gotten with this and use it for personal transformation and change. Okay, because again, it's not just about, you know, the touchy-feely of, you know, personal growth. It's, you know, you bring your bags to work with you. You know, nothing changes until you do. So that's what this is all about. These are the tools that we have. There's a book you get as part of this series, and then this series of 6 tools where you have quick references to all of the nuts and bolts information and so on. So that, and there's a leaflet up here that you can take with you that talks a bit about the program and what we're offering. It will be a fun program. It'll be an engaging program. The only class that's mandatory is the typing class. You can come and go with the other ones as you please. But I think once you start this thing, you'll find that it's really fun and rewarding. And it will pay back in spades in terms of your behaviors and your ability to communicate with the people in your life more effectively. So thank you for your kind attention.